The woman here in front of you is Eleanor Bumpers. She lived in 1551 University Avenue, Bronx, New York, all by herself. She was a mentally disabled woman, elderly, obese, diabetic, who could hardly get around her apartment, let alone pay her rent on time. And on one fateful day, the government decided to come and remove her from her apartment. And the process ended in murder. Her death sparked a rebellion in the Bronx. Newspaper articles, political cartoons, even a racial support group that disturbed the courtroom during the case, stating that this was not an accident, but this was a crime of race, a crime of police brutality. This is the apartment complex that the event took place, and this is an article that followed. Then, in November 1984, came an incident of police terror which shocked even the most callous. Emergency service cops were called in to help evict a 67-year-old black woman, Eleanor Bumpers, who was a few months behind in the rent. She was 300 pounds, arthritic, diabetic, and could hardly get around. 11 police broke down her door, and when she resisted, they claimed she came at them with a kitchen knife. She was shot twice with a 12-gauge shotgun and killed instantly. Then her nude body was left on the sidewalk until the ambulance came. The case went to court, and the man who shot and killed Eleanor Bumpers, Officer Sullivan, walked out of there as a free man. If this is how events truly transpired, why was he not tried and convicted for his crime? If this event is really as race-motivated as it appears to you and I, if the ideas that have been presented are as true as they seem, then why was justice not served? That is what we're here to investigate. Does Eleanor Bumpers really deserve justice, or is there something here that we're missing?
Not all evidence was examined in these instances as it was in the courtroom. All evidence, weighed equally, reflects an officer acting in defense of fellow officers, not a racially motivated killing. Fact: Eleanor Bumpers was delinquent almost $400 in rent. Fact: Bumpers refused to pay rent due to maintenance problems, but refused to admit maintenance workers when sent. Fact: Bumpers had told a housing authority manager she would not pay rent because, quote, people had come through the windows, the walls, and the floors and had ripped her off, unquote. Fact: on October 12th, maintenance workers were admitted. They checked the hallway light and stove as requested and found no issues. While in the apartment, they found several cans of human feces in the bathtub. Bumpers blamed these on, quote, Reagan and his people, unquote. Fact: 4 days prior to eviction, the city sent a psychiatrist who evaluated Bumpers as psychotic and unable to manage her affairs properly. The housing authority made the determination that Bumpers would be institutionalized upon eviction so that she could get the help that she needed. On the morning of October 29th, housing authority workers went to evict Bumpers. She said she would throw boiling lye on the next face to appear at the door. Housing authority workers then called the New York Police Department's Emergency Services Unit to respond. The Emergency Services Unit arrived on scene, and Bumpers refused to come to the door, so the officers drilled the lock. Through the hole in the lock, the officers witnessed Bumpers sitting naked in the living room, holding a 10-inch kitchen knife. With the lock disabled, the 6 officers pushed open the door and entered the apartment with plastic shields and a Y-shaped restraining bar intended to detain the mentally ill resident. Officer John Elter put the Y-bar into Bumpers' midsection in an effort to restrain her, as 2 other officers tried to use the plastic shields to disarm her. Officer Sullivan stood at the back of the stack on standby. Bumpers slashed at the officers with her knife and fought to get free, causing Officer Elter and one of the officers with a shield to lose their balance and their footing. Officer Sullivan perceived a threat to his fellow officers, so he discharged 1 round of 12-gauge into Bumpers' hand and the second into her chest. In a city rife with corruption and graft at the highest levels, there was a great tension between city administrators and the population. While courtroom evidence cleared Officer Sullivan in the killing, the incident did little to assuage the racial tension that still exists in the Bronx to this day.